Welcome, everybody, to another installment of Lawn Memo Live. We are here in my office here in lovely Buffalo, New York, doing some post-tour decompression. Thought it'd be kind of cool to sit here and do a little chatting about fish tour. So a little music in the background. We're going to talk a lot about Dick's. We're going to talk a lot about the fall tour. Coming up, we'll recap summer tour, kind of talk about where we think things have gone and where they're going to gone. Probably have a couple beers. Cheers to everybody here. So you should be able to chat. If you have any questions or anything you'd like me to touch on today, let's get into it. So again, welcome, and we'll get right down to it. So we'll start here with Dick's, and this was the 22, 23, and 24th shows at Dick's Sporting Goods Park. And I was lucky enough to attend them all. Pretty good time. You get a little beer in for that. And, these Dick's shows were pretty crazy. Okay, most importantly, we got craft beer planted in here. We are drinking the Big Ditch Hayburner, which is a classic New England hazy IPA brewed here in Buffalo. It is about a week old and a staple here in Buffalo for me. And at $9.99, you can't beat it for a six-pack. So probably have a couple of those tonight until I pass out. So let's talk about Dick's. Obviously, a lot of expectation going into Friday's show. Maybe the most I can remember. And, maybe since Hampton, the most kind of expectations going into a show. Curveball was obviously devastating for a lot of people. It was devastating for me. A lot of family in Watkins Glen. And in my opinion, I probably think that bridge is burnt at this point. I can't imagine fish ever going back to Watkins. And that very much pains me. There's a possibility I may be opening a restaurant in Watkins Glen in the near future. So, I was looking forward to having some fish fans come through there. So Friday's show, absolutely electric when we walk into the venue, and, they kill it from the start, from the very beginning. I never expected fish to really go too much into, too much talking. That's never really been their style. They kind of let the music and the playing do the talking. So they jump on with Free, and it's rocking. And I know a lot of people, that's one of their favorite songs. And it was electric. One of those cool moments at Fish. Kind of reminded me of the feeling when they did the Chilling Thrilling and in Vegas, and when they played Free and they did all the stuff from Chilling Thrilling in there was just completely electric. So Harry Hood comes up in the 2-hole, and, when they play a classic like that, it's countless people's favorite songs, and they absolutely crush it out of the ballpark. I think that's when a lot of us, that were lucky enough to be there, kind of started to move past Curveball. At least in my opinion, it was very hard. But sitting there, Hood, and very early in the show, it just felt like Fish and everything that's great about Fish and everything that I was missing. And it was an absolutely fantastic version. They seemed to play really good hoods at Dick's, and I absolutely loved it. So, and then from there, it only started the fire. The first set was one of the best that I have seen in a long time. What's the Use comes out of that. An all-time Lawn Memo favorite. Blazon was fantastic. And of course, the sequence that a lot of people are still talking about, and maybe one of the major highlights of the run. And of course, my favorite song, Ghost, going into Cross-Eyed and Painless. And what a year it has been for Ghost. Unbelievable Virgin in Tahoe, a Jam of the Year contender in Alpharetta. And this Ghost is fantastic with a full funk breakdown at the end that reminded me of the Simple, a couple of years back, or a couple of years back at Dick's, they did that Simple that was 20 minutes and it had that funk jam. This Ghost reminds me that I had the same feeling. I was pretty much the same spot on the floor, and, absolutely killer. And then Trey, I've listened to this transition a ton of times. Trey introduces that as, into the funk. He introduces that cross-eyed, and it's just a little at a time. He gives it to you a little lick, a little bit more, and then he's really playing it into, and there's kind of, it's really freaking cool. The final transition, because they're in a different key, is a little awkward, but the idea is incredible. And when you play Ghost and you funk up the ending and you go into cross-eyed, I mean, it's what it's all about. It's an absolute party. And if you don't like that, I don't know why you're going to Fish. So killer stuff. Obviously one of the highlights. And then they come up with, Simple, that's been, storied for the last couple of years, just killer version, especially last year, and then Cavern Open or Closer. So just a killer set from start to finish. I've seen a lot of second sets, not that good. Is absolutely fantastic. So, they come out. I think there's a lot of pressure on them. I think that, it's very difficult to be in their shoes. There's a lot of emotion. I'm sure they felt terrible, and all that's been building up. So to come out and to put forward a set like that and harness all those emotions, from the beauty and the bliss of Harry Hood to the kind of space wonderment of What's the Use, to the kind of fun little feat of Blazon, and then the absolute crushing Ghost Cross-Eyed. I thought they absolutely nailed it. At set break, I mean, there was hugs, there was, anything that was positive was going on. Everybody just completely felt better. So the second set, a lot to live up to with the first, great first set that first night. And this is the sets that I love. The shorter amount of songs. There's 5 in this entire set. No Man's has been a staple of great jamming. Of course, we had an absolute killer version the year before the first night, and this is another great version. And it goes back into the same thing, back into Carini, just like it did in night 1 last year. And the Carini is absolutely gorgeous. It flows. It's just exactly what you need in the 2-hole of the second set. You get a rockin' No Man's, and then Carini takes you from a ride. The theme, I thought, was impeccably placed. Theme is really great in the right spot. It has the ability to absorb, 2 big jams like No Man's and Carini, and then kind of springboard with that rocking ending of Theme, and that goes right into Mercury. So I thought Theme was an absolutely fantastic choice. I've listened back doing the whole set, and it's perfect right in the middle of the second set. Mercury, great. Love Mercury. It's one of my favorite songs that Tom Marshall's ever written. The lyrics are fantastic. And this has a contender for best version played of Mercury. Very, very dancey and a kind of Afro beat at the end. Very interesting stuff. And then they bring in the Monster Light to close the set. First time Light's ever closed Dick's. And what a version. I love these big, long jams to close sets. We got a Split Open and Melt and Gorge that did the same thing. And this is in the 18-minute variety. And the peak of this Light is crazy good. So just an unbelievable way to end the set. 5 songs, all flowing. You have these short song sets, where they all go like 15 minutes. And you sit there and time travels. And you lose track of everything that's going on. And that is pretty much my favorite thing about Fish. So when they play sets like this, they played one, very close to my heart at the Man the second night in 2015. Just, short songs or 15 minutes and, 5 songs in a set or 6 songs, you just lose track of everything. And that's what Fish can do when they're really on. The encore, Martian Monster, they did this in Merriweather, and I think this is the spot for it, to be honest. Martian Monster and the encore is a dance, evil, rocking party, and they go back into Julius to end the show. So you're talking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 15 songs in the whole show. I'm pretty sure I have at least seen one set that has that many songs. So 15, that's where it's at. This is one of my favorite shows of the era. It's great on the listen back. The Harry Hood holds up. The Ghost Cross-Eyed is fantastic. Blaze On. The No Man's Carini is great, and the Mercury Light. I mean, that's a lot of re-listenable material from one show. So Fish, thank you for night one. It was something special, and I'm so happy that you came out with a show of that quality after everyone, you know, had to deal with what happened to Curveball. Quick side note. I was lucky enough to go to Dick's, and Watkins Glen, again, is in my backyard. It's about 2 hours away. So it wasn't too, I mean, it's obviously terrible, and it was brutal, and I felt gutted, and it ended up being like an Irish funeral all weekend. But for me, the inconvenience wasn't off the charts like it was for a lot of people. There was people in my row in Watkins from Hawaii. There's a guy that drove 14 hours from Florida. And then they turned around and drove home or flew home. There was, of course, we tweeted this guy from New Zealand. It took 4 flights. It was rough. And my crew, a lot of them are married and have multiple kids, and they've all seen about 100 shows apiece. They just can't go as much anymore due to life responsibilities. So a lot of them, this was their only show, was going to be Curveball in our backyard festival. It was going to be great. So they lost that. My good friend Ned actually kind of wrote me. I go, did you watch the webcast? And he said, I turned it on and I couldn't do it. It was like, thinking you're over a breakup from, you know, a very hot girl you were dating, and you go to the mall and you see her and you are definitely not over her. And I thought that was a pretty good way to put it. So, you know, I'm sitting here talking about all the wonderful things and how pumped up, you know, things have been, you know, with Dick's, but if you're still hungover about Curveball and you still are hurt, I get it. And take as much time as you need. If it takes you a year or whatever, it's up to you. It was very, very tough thing for everybody to deal with. So that's just a quick side note about, you know, where I think people's heads were. And, you know, I do think it's good to listen to the band, and they'll make you feel better because the music is so good. So that's the side note. Let's go into night 2. So night 2, I actually ended up 3 people from the rail with some good friends that I am friends with on Twitter. And that's the closest I've ever been at a Fish show. 3 people away. It was pretty tight up there, but we had a good time, good dancing crew. And but I bugged out a little bit, so I had to get further back for the second set. But glad to be up there because they come in night 2 and absolutely blow the doors off. The second sand opener ever. First one at Randall's Island, and another great, fantastic first set. This sand kicks it up, and, you know, like to see that more. It's an absolute kick-ass opener. And Down with the Z's in the 2-hole might be my jam of the run. I have listened to this the most, and immediately during it, I felt Gordon just completely change the trajectory and absolutely throw it down. And in the re-listen, it might even be better. Mike Gordon in this Down with the Z's is one of the best things I think he's ever played. He is absolutely lights out from start to finish, changes the course of the jam. Trey comes back in at about the 9-minute mark, and he pivots, and he's killer through the whole thing. I mean, Mike Gordon is at the top of his game, and in my opinion, he might be the best jam bassist on the scene, period. He is creative as all hell. He figures out notes and places to play things that nobody else is doing. So we go from there into Shade, which, if you know the story, there was a couple girls that met Trey and asked them whatever happened to Shade, and Trey got excited, and that's where Shade came from. So whether you like that song or not, that's the story. Home comes in a cool spot. There's actually a nice little home jam at the very end of this that I kind of wish had gone a little bit longer. It was in a really nice spot. So if you want to hear something interesting, maybe in the last minute or 2 of Home is very good. After that, we go into Wolfman's, another great jam in the first set. There's a cool slanky vibe going in the middle, and Paige plays just a couple notes very quietly in there that make all the difference. And that's why Paige is the best, because he can play a bunch of notes or no notes, and they almost always are the exact perfect thing to play. So check that out. That's a good one. And then Wombat is funky, and then we get a nice Everything's Right jam. You know, been a jam vehicle since it started. And then we go into Bathtub Gin to end the set. Now, killer first set there. Again, Down with Disease is among my highlights of the entire summer and certainly of the Dick's run. From there, we go into set 2, and we're going into Set Your Soul Free, which might be in the conversation for best jam vehicle of the summer. And it's no slouch here. It is very, very good. And the very end of it is excellent. And I know some people I've been reading have been clamoring for this. They wish they had gone longer because it went into Fuego, which we've heard a million times. But still, you need to look at it for what it was. And it's an excellent quality jam that hits about the 17-minute mark. So there's a good amount of stuff there, and it's all good. Excellent, excellent jam. So there's a lot of songs, in contrary to night 1, there's a lot of songs here in set 2. You've got Fuego after this, you know, not much that went on there. You've got Chalk Dust, very short, especially for Dick's with the incredible history that it has there. Piper about 10 minutes, but the set closes with, you know, an absolute freight train. You have obviously my favorite song to see live, which is 2001. You got Sneakin' Sally and you got Slave. So you got a 10-minute 2001, which is very long for this area. Sally was on the shorter side. So about 16 to 17 minutes of some of the most fun funk to dance to in all the Fish catalog. And you take that and you end it with Slave, and you put everybody back into reality that, you know, life is wonderful. You take a minute, you feel all the emotions. I mean, that was quite a stretch for me. 2001, Sally, and Slave. I mean, sometimes song selection really matters, and it was absolutely on par here. So a lot of people are calling this one of the weaker sets of the run. I mean, I think the first night, the first 2 sets are both incredibly strong, and set 1 and 2 here are about the same for me. But you've got a 17-minute great Set Your Soul Free. You've got that killer run I just talked about at the end, and then everything else is upbeat. Fuego, Chalk Dust, Twist, Piper, and The Wedge. So there's a lot of songs, but they're all upbeat, and there's no real downtime. I mean, everybody was dancing the whole time, and that's a Saturday night show. So that happens, and I had a fucking great time. It was killer. So, you know, I think night 2 is getting a little bit of a bad rap, but I thought it was very, very high quality. And the more I listened to it, especially with standouts, Down with Disease, Set Your Soul Free, that Wolfman's is excellent. I mean, there's a good amount of improv, even though they played a lot of songs in this show. So don't sleep on it. And if you loved it like I did and people are talking against it, do not listen. Night 3, a lot of pressure, Sunday show. You know, we got a lot of things going on here, and we open up with Soul Planet, with a lot of people hate that song. I actually love it. And then a killer jam there. Really insane tone at the end of that Soul Planet from Trey. So that's something you should certainly check out. You go into Possum, really great transition. And Mellow Mood, the bust out of the weekend. And Mellow Mood is one of my favorites. I love any time they play any Bob Marley. So it had been a long time since they played that. I was jonesing for anything, you know, Soul Shakedown, whatever's going on, but Mellow Mood was great. And there's actually a little bit more of a jam there than usual. So that's certainly something to check out. Tube, again, shorter, but let me tell you, the tone that Trey finds in this Tube, killer. Go back, listen to Mellow Mood, Tube, awesome. And then kind of the set gets it gets uneven from there. So we got Funky Bitch, Ocelot, Keeping It Real. I really like. I hope that sticks around. It's a good Mike Gordon song for Fish. My Friend, Horn I love. Maze was killer. Miss You was in a really weird spot, even though I love that song. And then Antelope to close. So a lot of songs in the first set. Probably the weakest of the 3. It's a little uneven, but it's still, I mean, you can say that. But Soul Planet has a cool jam. That little Mellow Mood jam I just talked about. Maze was excellent, and Antelope was good. So is light on the improv compared to the other first sets, but it's still very, very good. Then we go to set 2. And of all the stretches this summer, 46 Days, Tweezer, and Golden Age, it stacks up. All 3 of those are fantastic. 46 really seems to produce some of the most unique improv, and this is no exception. The 46 Days is absolutely killer. The transition and segue into Tweezer is among the best. Very, very cool. You can just, when Tweezer dropped, and especially when they do a segue into that, it's one of the cooler things. The place blows up, and this was no exception. And again, we didn't hit any 20-minute Tweezers this summer, but the Tweezer in Alpharetta, note for note, is one of my favorite jams of that time frame, under 15 minutes of this era. That jam is incredible, and this one is no slouch either. So very, very cool. And then there's a kind of a slower transition into Golden Age, which a lot of people didn't like. I think it fits perfectly. And it's great. That whole 46 Tweezer Golden Age, if you listen to it as a 40-minute run, it's just fantastic. It's got everything. It's got some jamming, some kind of Afro, funk going on, and the Golden Age probably is the real highlight of the 3, and on the other 2 are fantastic. So, you go to shows, and a lot of times, earlier in this era, you wouldn't even get 20 minutes of improv, even close to that. So to get 45 minutes of that to start off the show in the second set, you need to start thinking about how much this band has progressed and how good they are. It's killer stuff. It stacks with anything. They go into a nice transition into Steam from there. Steam was kind of cool. A song I heard the Ocean sing, I was hoping for a little bit from that, but didn't really do anything. That song has really blossomed, and there's been some great versions, especially the Alpharetta, which only clocks in like 6 or 7 minutes. Loved Jabu in that late slot, some cool improv, and that was really going places, but they kind of nosedived into Susie Greenberg and Zero. So, I mean, the beginning, very, very good, and then the last part is a little uneven. And then the encore, Horror Silent, always fun and, lovely there at the beginning, and Tweezer Reprise. So that's kind of the in-depth review of what we got there. I got a bunch of comments coming through here. So, yeah, guitar, Mike, yeah, Guitar Tone and Sally, very, very cool. Good point. Trey has really started to get a hold of that rig, and I think it's only going to grow. It's the first year. I think he's tried so many different sounds, so many different things with it that he's learning on the fly, obviously. And that's only going to help as he tries to get more, in depth with it as time goes. So very, very cool. And I look forward to his tones just keep progressing. I mean, just that Soul Planet tone, the Tube tone, that Sally tone, he's finding some really, really cool stuff. So let's talk about Dix as a run. As an entire run, I would say it's kind of probably near the top. I don't think it's got the legs to take over 2012. 2012 was, that was something else. And especially at the time frame, they hadn't played anything like that. And all that stuff still stands up. I listened to a lot of that pre-run, from start to finish. 2012 is among the best runs of this era. So I don't think it's quite there. I think that 2016 was excellent from start to finish, but I think this run's right in there. The first night stands with pretty much any show toe-to-toe that's been played at Dick's. I think once you get to that elite level, it's hard to pick. So very, very cool. Somebody asked me the MVP of Dick's, and his answer was Gordo. And I'm with you. The Down with Disease alone would probably allow me to say that he's the MVP. And more often than not, he probably is. He is just an incredible bass player at the top of his game. And just his ability to fit notes into places and play unique rhythms is second to none. He's an incredible force in Phish right now. So let me kind of do this. Okay, so great run. Very, very fun. Some people, I guess, thought that they kind of lost interest going forward after the first night. I don't know. I think there's a ton of quality stuff there. That's all I can say. So the whole summer as a whole, we'll do a little reflection here as I have a couple drinks. Now, the whole summer of Phish, it seems to get a little bit of a bad rap, but the people that I have talked to and the way I feel about it is I think it was a fantastic summer. And the reason is the variety of jamming, number one. Even at the Baker's Dozen, which I think we can all pretty much agree was some unbelievable Phish, but there are a ton of jams that follow a simple formula, kind of find a cool kind of groove and then peak. And a lot of the jams at the Baker's Dozen find that. There's certainly a bunch that don't have that formula, but there's a lot of them that do. And I love that, and it works, and it's fantastic. But this summer, there is way more going on. There is dark, dirty, exploratory funk like the Simple at the Gorge. There is ambient Pink Floyd stuff like the Set Yourself Free in San Francisco. There's all kinds of different stuff going on. There's funk, there's throwdowns, there's great peaks. The Hood hits one of the great ones, the Slave even from this weekend. When they sat down and jammed, they crushed it. There are some flubs, very much so. You cannot not hear that in the middle of the composed parts. There's some interesting song choices. There wasn't a lot of start to finish great sets, but in segments, Phish absolutely crushed the summer. There's I think that was San Fran, where there was the Mercury, a song I heard the Ocean sing, and Carini. And Carini is bonkers good. So even in small doses where you went 3 songs, if you look at that as a jam arc where they start, where the first jam goes, and then where the third song ends up, it's just a massive arc. If you were to draw that, how it flows, it's incredible the amount of ground they could cover in 25 minutes to 30 minutes, sometimes more, obviously. But that's my biggest takeaway. And the thing I was most excited about all summer was the variety. It was just all over the place. And even at the Gorge was a great example, especially in that fantastic third set on the third night of the Gorge, another 5-song set. And the Cross-Eyed that kicks that off is very ambient and very light and minimal playing. And then the Twist throws this funk hammer down, Waves takes it back, Miss You gives the little ballad, and then the Fluffhead Party. And then you come with the dark, nasty Split Open and Melt. So just, fantastic stuff there. And I think that's why I really enjoyed the summer. And I think pretty much every single show had parts where all kinds of different jamming was going on. And I thought what was going to happen, and of course this is a little sad, is that was all leading to Curveball. And I thought that they were going to really let it out and take all those different stylistic jams and all the things they had practiced and work on and let it all go. And of course we were robbed of that. And for me, as much as missing all that time with my friends and bonding over Phish at a festival, there's nothing like it. That was the thing I missed the most, because I really thought it was going to be a 3-day run of epic proportions musically. So that's number one. And the other thing that I absolutely love about this summer, and it was sent to me as a question here beforehand, is just how good the first sets were this year. I mean, from probably 2009 to pretty much last year, of all the things that were upsetting to me, upsetting is a bad word, all the things that kind of annoyed me, the first sets were definitely it. We could look back in the 90s, and sometimes first sets had second set jams, and sometimes first sets were in all of second sets pretty much. And you never knew at any point what Phish could play. And that could be in the 2-hole of the whole show, the 3-hole, the opener. They could go off at any point. And from 2009 to pretty much 14, 15, that was not the case. First sets were 10 to 11 songs. They were play all kinds of different things. There would be no flow, and it would be like a warm-up for the second set. Well, that got erased at the Baker's Dozen, and they started playing big jams there, and it carried over into this summer. And some of this summer's first sets are absolutely fantastic. And it kicked off right at the very first night in Tahoe. Now, the first night Tahoe, I'm going to pull it up real quick. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 songs. First night. And I loved that they came out with Tahoe ready to roll. And it features a great Ghost there in Tahoe. MoMA Dance was killer in that. So right away, they threw it down. First sets were going. You've got another great one at the first set of the first night of the Gorge. And this one, I don't know how, but everybody's missing it. This first set is absolutely fantastic. Set Your Soul Free as an opener. Cool groove. You got Wolfman's, another jam, 10, 11 minutes. You've got Rogue, 9, 10 minutes. Killer type 1 stuff. Poor Heart's the only thing that is short in this entire set. Undermine, one of my favorites, very unique, simple, 14 minutes, one of the first set jams of the summer. Yamar's wonderful in the summer, and Sand to close. Set Your Soul Free, Wolfman's, Rogue, Poor Heart, Undermine, Simple, Yamar, and Sand. Have seen a lot of second sets, not that good. Killer. So somehow this has been lost, but that first set was fantastic. When you jam every single song, except you just throw Poor Heart in there, that's what it's all about. And I very, very much enjoyed that first set. You've got other ones, the third night of the Gorge, right after that, a couple nights. And another one, Curtain With, to open at the Gorge with the sun setting, and the sun set over the hill during the With Jam, right as they went into it. I will never forget it. You play, Tila, you play Reba at the Gorge during sunset, and I'm telling you, there's nothing like it. That's why you go to the Gorge, and those are the things that you hope they play, because you have so much memory. You have so much nostalgia for those songs. And when they play those and it's just unbelievably breathtaking around you, it hits you in a spot unlike any other. I get choked up thinking about all the things that I felt during those 3 songs at the Gorge this year. It was absolutely spectacular. And on a side note, they also threw in an absolutely killer Wombat and a Rockin' Walls to finish that. So another absolutely fantastic first set. The Gorge Night 3, in my opinion, is one of the best 2 show sets, period. I love it from start to finish. So now we'll go into another good one. Bill Graham, 46 Days was a great opener. Just fantastic stuff. You've got another. We'll go into what other ones. We should do Alpharetta. Alpharetta's first set, the first night, as good as the second set is, when you open with First Tube, you do No Men and No Man's Land with a jam. And then you go into one of the jams of the summer, Ghost, for a first 3 songs in a show. I mean, it was a collective, holy cow, what is going on? Where are we? It was something special. And that Ghost holds up. It's one of the jams of the summer. All of These Dreams, kind of a very rare song. I think it's only been played 8 or 9 times. And then Back on the Train, Free, Martian Monster, Tube, 555 Walls. It gets a little uneven toward the end, but, really, really cool stuff. After that, the other great first set from Alpharetta is the third night. You Sexy Thing, Tweezer Reprise, What's the Use, Petrichor, Most Events Aren't Planned. Fantastic, fantastic stuff. Vultures was cool. Another great Reba, and Sand. So another start to finish, great set there. Night 1 of Alpharetta. And then Dick's, we just had some great ones there. So, MPP night 2 was an absolute beast and fantastic stuff. Bradley Jones trying to weigh in here. Brad, I do not see the question that you asked me. Sorry, man. So I am new to this. Yes, thank you very much. So, definitely some of my favorite things. Again, great stylistic jamming, great first sets. It really was set the tone for a lot of shows, and that's why I like the summer. I get that there was some issues with set flow, flub, stuff like that, but overall, I really like the place that Fish is in right now, and I am very excited to see where fall goes. I think that it's going to go, it's just going to be an extension of what we saw at Dick's, only way deeper. When you get inside, and traditionally when Fish has gotten inside, they really take it up a notch. The lights certainly for 2 sets help. There's certainly no weather issues, and the jams get funkier, they get deeper, and most of the time, I'm a fall tour guy as opposed to summer tour. Brad, Pinocchio said his nose is about to grow. He is lying or say the truth. I have no idea what that means, man, but thanks for chatting. Appreciate it. So that's kind of where we're at right now. Very excited for fall tour. Can't wait for it to happen. And, it's going to be special. Very excited. It's only 6 weeks away till we kick off in Albany. The way fall tour sets up is very exciting. Albany, a lot of history there. Hampton obviously speaks for itself. Chicago is, very much in the history books for Fish. I've heard that the Tennessee venue is fantastic. And then Fish in Vegas. I mean, that's a killer setup, and where they're at jamming and stylistically, very excited to see where that's going to go. So that's kind of my quick take on, what's going to happen here and what happened over the summer. So I'm always killing it on Twitter, sending 50 tweets a day. And my sound check podcast will be coming back up very shortly. And I also will be on some different shows here with our Osiris podcast. So you can always hit me up with questions. Again, LawnMemo on Twitter. I appreciate everybody jumping in. I'm going to drink some beer and listen to some more music. So thanks everybody for joining. It's been a blast.